Darth Bane, birth name Dicel, was a middle-aged human male born on Apatras 1026 years before the Battle of Yavin. Bane was an adult when he escaped his homeworld and joined the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness. At first, he was a mere foot soldier in the Brotherhood until it was discovered that he was a Force sensitive. Shortly after, he was enlisted into the Sith Academy on Korriban. Bane quickly climbed to the top of his class before he became disillusioned to the Academy and its teachings. Eventually, he would sever ties to the Brotherhood, destroying their leader and many of his students before creating his own Sith Order, which enacted the rule of two: a master and an apprentice. One to embody the power, the other to crave it. Eventually, he would succumb to his own rule of two, expiring at the hands of his own apprentice, Darth Zana. Darth Malgus, birth name Veridun, was a middle-aged human male born on the Sith world Dramun Kos in 3,700 years before the Battle of Yavin. Unlike Bane, Darth Malgus was born into the Sith. His adoptive father saw the dark side in him early on after he killed one of his servants. Shortly after, Malgus was sent to the Sith Academy where he would be trained. It is vague who Malgus learned under while at the Academy, but if it was anything like the norm of his time, he would have been taught by several Sith Lords throughout the Academy. Sometime after his training at the Academy, he would be under the direct apprenticeship to his master Vindictin. As an adult, Malgus went up the ranks of the Sith quickly, eventually killing his master Vindictin after he was defeated by the Jedi Cao Sin Darach. Over the course of his time during the Galactic War, he would become mutilated and disfigured, held together only by his Sith powers and his cybernetic suit, but still, he held his own as one of the greatest powerhouses of his time. Both Bane and Malgus had an extraordinary physical strength, standing at over 2 meters in height. Though Bane was more stocky than Malgus, there are more examples of Malgus in martial arts exchanges. Malgus is never shown having any hand-to-hand combat with his opponents, but there are several examples of his unarmed strength. In his novel Deceived, he is described as crushing a Jedi's throat with his bare hands, and later killed Lord Audros with his bare hands as well. We also see him withstanding a tackle from a Republic trooper, resisting rockets, waving off grenades, and surviving an avalanche of rocks. In short, he was a rhino. It is harder to determine Bane's martial arts abilities as there aren't many examples of it. There is, however, evidence of his physical strength. After his study sessions in the Korriban archives, Bane focused on training his physical body as well. His overwhelming strength helped him overcome 3 battle-meditated Jedi at once, including one of the best duelists of their order. His largest attribute, however, was to resist physical pain. During his battle with the 3 Jedi, he wore Orbilis armor, which provided him protection but also caused him great pain, and only a master of the Sith could resist such pain without becoming unconscious or dying. If I were to liken Malgus to a rhino, I would liken Bane to a hippo. Both are highly resistant to physical and mental pain, but I believe Malgus, like the horn of a rhino, would pack a bit more punch than Bane, but only slightly. A hand-to-hand fight between the two would exhaust them both, but ultimately, the edge would go to Darth Malgus. If the Sith had an equivalent to a master's degree, Darth Bane would be a doctorate of the Sith teachings. He spent countless hours studying the Sith texts, despite the general lack of interest from the rest of his colleagues. He had an extreme desire to excel and perfect his knowledge of the Sith teachings. He even went as far as looking for texts outside of the Korriban Academy, finding an old holocron from Darth Revan. His studies did not stop in the library, however. He used what he learned practically as well. One of his Sith instructors on Korriban, Githany, held private sessions with Bane, eventually training him how to use Force Lightning. Bane would go on to be so powerful with the ability, he could kill most opponents instantly with just Force Lightning. During combat, Force users put up a Force shield around them as a resistance to such attacks as Force Push or Lightning, but still, Bane could penetrate their Force shields. Bane's Force abilities also offered him resistance to physical pain and poisons as well. He once combated the effects of Synox on the planet Ambria, though he nearly succumbed to its effects. Darth Bane was also an advanced user of the Dunmach technique, which gave him the ability to imprint fear and anguish in his opponents. Furthermore, he was able to resist similar attacks from others, putting up a powerful force shield around him during combat. Bane had a natural affinity for the Force, but unlike most of his colleagues, he propelled himself to a grander level through focused training and intense research. Darth Malgus too was very strong on the dark side of the Force. He was able to implement a variety of standard and Sith abilities such as Force Push, Choke, Speed, and Lightning. He has even been known to deflect lightning from his opponents and redirect it back towards them. Even with his varied skill set, he was able to chain them together with relative ease. He was also very talented in retaining his life through the dark side. After his fight with the Master Jedi Satil Shan, he was smothered by an avalanche of rocks. Even though he was nearly crippled, his lungs were failing and his breathing wasn't easy, he was able to take on two very capable Jedi Knights and defeat them without feeling any pain. Malgus' Force Lightning was powerful, but inconsistent. During the sacking of the Jedi Temple, he was able to kill 3 Jedi Knights with it, but he was not able to kill a charging Republic trooper, though that may be because of the trooper's armor and his relative inexperience with the power at the time. One of his favorite abilities was Force Speed to enhance his physical movements. He was also an advanced user of telekinesis, often hurling objects at his opponent during combat. Though Malgus had a strong and raw power in the dark side, Bane dedicated each of his waking hours to his study to perfect it. Malgus was proficient in Force Lightning, but Bane was master of it. Malgus had a high tolerance to pain, but Bane made pain his bitch. Malgus had a wide arsenal to choose from in his Force abilities, but Bane had a defense for each of them. Malgus was not totally outmatched by Bane in the Force, however. Though Bane was proficient in the Dunmach technique, he would not be able to use it against Malgus, who certainly would be able to resist any fear or agony he may try to imprint. Still, by comparison, Malgus was a student and Bane was the professor. Simply put, Bane would take Malgus to school in terms of Force abilities. I give the edge by a wide margin to Darth Bane. Darth Bane carried a curved hilt lightsaber with a red synthesized crystal, which allowed him more cutting power. Bane was a master of the Jim-So lightsaber technique, though he was probably proficient in other forms as well, especially Sorisu, which he taught to his apprentice Darth Zana to complement her small size. Jim-So is a highly offensive fighting form which complemented the large stature of Darth Bane. It focused more on strong strikes, rather than random twirls and acrobatics like Ataru. Jim-So was originally created by Jedi who thought Sorisu was too defensive and that the user had to wait for openings rather than make them themselves. Jim-So was the answer, sending the fight to the opponent. Darth Malgus carried a hefty Sith lightsaber. Like all other Sith, he used a red synthesized crystal which had more cutting power than Jedi variants. Though Malgus' lightsaber form was never explicitly stated in any text, it can be inferred that he was a practitioner of Jim-So form. Jim-So gave Malgus the ability to turn his defense into offense. Users of the form would often parry an attack and instantly counter with an even stronger attack. Though Malgus had a lot of raw emotion, I would not go as far as to say that he was a practitioner of the Juya form, because his fighting style was not as chaotic or unpredictable as that of other Juya users. Instead, his strikes were very precise and extremely strong. Because of the two combatants' similar builds and fighting styles, it would be very difficult to give the edge to either. Their mastery of Jimso would lead them to an endless battle of parries and attacks until one or the other were to become exhausted. Therefore, the edge would have to be decided on their other abilities. If they only used Jimso against each other, I believe Bane would eventually be the victor, as Malgus' life-sustaining suit would not be able to hold up. Furthermore, Bane was proficient enough in Surisu to train his apprentice Darth Zana, so he would be able to apply it in a duel against Malgus, giving him an edge in his defenses and longevity. The only form Malgus would be able to surpass Bane in would be his ability in Ataru, which might outplay and outmaneuver Bane's heavy strikes. However, Bane's curved hilt would give him more varied angles to attack with, which could throw Malgus off guard. In the end, I think it would be a tie. It just would be way too close to determine whether one can outbest the other. Though if I had to choose, I would give a very, very slight edge to Bane. The fight between Darth Malgus and Darth Bane would be an exhausting and long battle. They matched each other physically with powerful frames and broad bodies. Though Malgus had a variety of Sith force powers at his disposal that he could easily change together, Bane's extensive knowledge in the Force would subvert any and all attacks that he could throw at him. Though Bane showcased great resilience to physical pain, Malgus' brute strength and will to live would give him an edge over Bane. And their lightsaber abilities were almost completely matched and equal. Therefore, the battle will be determined by their Force abilities. They were nearly matched physically, and their forms were both on par, but Bane's extensive studies of the dark sides of the Force would give him the large edge over Malgus, who was merely proficient in his Force abilities. Though Bane could imprint fear in his opponents, this would not affect Malgus. However, Bane's Force Lightning would shred through Malgus's. Bane's Force Push would penetrate any force wall that Malgus would put up. And any attack Malgus could muster would be waved aside easily by Bane's Force Wall. Therefore, I declare Darth Bane, Lord of the Rule of Two, the victor. Of course, this is all my opinion. I would love to see your thoughts and comments. Do you think Darth Bane should have won, or did Malgus actually have a better chance? Peace, love, and may the Force be with you. Always.